North American bumblebees have been significantly decreasing in recent decades. This is attributed to a host of factors including fading availability of flowers that attract bees. Bumblebees are essential pollinators for both native and agricultural plants. Their ability to fly in colder temperatures makes them especially important pollinators at high elevation. A study has identified the flowers most frequently nibbled by bumblebees as part of research to improve the pollination of critical plants as bee species face declines nationwide. Published last Tuesday in the journal Environmental Entomology, researchers captured bumblebees on more than 100 plant species across more than 400 plots in the Plumas National Forest in California, which is a mountainous, meadowy area with wildlife habitats near running water and where bumblebees are abundant. The most popular flowers among the bees were found to be Oregon checker mallow and mountain pennyroyal flowers. The decline in population was evident between April 2015 and April 2016 when beekeepers in the U.S. lost 44% of their colonies. The authors compared which species of flowers the bees used relative to the availability of each flower species across the landscape. According to Dr. Jerry Cole, a biologist with the Institute for Bird Populations, it is essential to consider the availability of plants when determining the preference of bees. Not all flowers are utilized equally by bumblebees, and not all flowers are equally available to them. Recognizing which flowers are favored by bumblebees can help scientists understand which plants they need, but putting that choice in the context of what is available to bees across a landscape provides a more accurate idea of which flowers are highly valued. Learning bumblebees' flower preferences will support the conservation of declining bee species. According to Helen Laughlin, this kind of information can actually enhance the effectiveness of restoration for bumblebees and in a method that's comparatively straightforward and cost-effective to implement. The results found that each bumblebee species in the study selected a different assortment of flowers, even though the bees were foraging across the same landscape. This can be convenient for land managers who are restoring or managing meadows and other riparian habitats for native bumblebees. When a bee was captured on a flower, the biologists estimated the number of those flowers in a given plot of forest, the study said. Reasons behind the declines were transfer of parasites from honeybees to bumblebees, loss of floral resources, competition with other insect species, or a mismatch between the phenology of plant species and the phenology of bumblebee species. Jerry Cole, lead author of the research and biologist at the Institute for Bird Populations in California, said, "The synchronicity between plants and animals is important, as our food supply depends on the timing of phenological events. Other studies merely use the proportion of captures on a plant species alone to determine which plants are most important to bees." According to Cole, without comparison to how available those plants are, a plant might be mistaken to be preferentially selected by bees, when it is only very abundant. In case you wondered if honeybees were squeezed but bumblebees were fairly present in your own garden, it seems that the range of bumblebees is drastically narrowing due to climate change as well. Researchers at the University of Vermont and University of Ottawa recently published their findings from the most comprehensive study conducted yet on the impacts of warming on critical pollinators. The scientists examined more than 420,000 historical and current records of many species of bumblebees. In the 110 years of records that they scrutinized, bumblebees have lost about 185 miles from the southern edge of their range in Europe and North America, scientists estimate, according to a release. The scale and pace of these losses are unprecedented, said University of Ottawa's Jeremy Kerr. Bumblebees are also failing to increase territory north of their usual range, the release said. The bees' shrinking range will affect the number of plants that are pollinated, of course. If we don't stop the decline in the abundance of bumblebees, we may well face higher food prices, diminished varieties, and other troubles, says Leif Richardson, a scientist at the University of Vermont, according to the release. The scientists eliminated pesticides and land use changes as culprits. They also noticed that bumblebees are shifting habitat to areas at higher elevation, said a release. We need new strategies to help these species cope with the effects of human-caused climate change, perhaps assisting them to shift into northern areas, said Kerr. But the most important message of this study is the need to halt or reverse climate warming, said Leif Richardson, a USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Vermont, according to a release. These findings could spell trouble for many plants, including some crops, like blueberries, that depend on bumblebees for pollination, said Richardson, according to a release. Bumblebees are crucial to our natural ecosystems.